Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Because last week has been, quite hectic when it comes to the geopolitics inside Middle East. We witnessed the death of Mr. Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, and in fact, after that, events that unfolded are quite surprising. We witnessed use of JDAMs and a lot of heavy weaponry by Israeli forces, quite precise airstrikes inside Beirut in order to eliminate one of the top most leaders of the axis of resistance. So, in reply, we heard that Hezbollah launched their famous Fadi missiles in the northern areas of Israel and inflicted some casualties inside the region, while Israelis do claim that the missiles and the salvo fell in open areas. In fact, Israel, as for now, has redeployed a lot of its forces to the northern region, indicating that they are going to launch a full-scale offensive inside Lebanon. News circulating about it, and it's going to happen pretty soon because for now there is a huge war that is going to start between Lebanon and Israel. Airstrikes have already been gone, and then on 27th September there was another news that ballistic missiles and a drone salvo was fired from Yemen by the Houthis in order to target the southern tip of Israel, the city known as Tel Afif, as well as they also claimed that they had hit Ashkelon, as well as the region of Tiberias, which has a small port of the IDF there. So Hezbollah has also again responded. In fact, they launched around 4 different attacks on 29th of September with the help from Iranian-backed Iraqi resistance group with drones, with salvos, and with Fadi missiles. In northern areas of Israel. What news is circulating today is that Iranians are claiming that they are now going to register a lot of their forces, whether it be IRGCS or some other forces. They're going to be deployed inside Lebanon because news coming from Israel is obviously that there is going to be a full ground scale operation inside Lebanon. For that, we have to discuss the overall geopolitical situation, whether there is going to be further escalation in the region, or as per Mr. Biden, who again, even during the G7 summit, even during the UN General Assembly, he mentioned that there needs to be an establishment of a 21-day ceasefire in order to, achieve the diplomatic goals of US and come to a solid conclusion in the region for peace and stability. Mr. Wakar, how do you foresee a response from Iran is going to be, because they have lost Ismail Haniya inside Tehran, one of the key Hamas representatives. They lost their president recently. Now, death of Hassan Nasrallah. In fact, he's considered as one of the most close associates with even the Khamenei of Iran. So when it comes to response, a lot of this thing is being discussed in Western media as well. What would Lebanon, Iran, or Houthis would do after this?
I think the overall context is not really between Israel and Hamas only, or Israel and Hezbollah only, or Israel and Houthi. Basically, it's an axis of resistance. And definitely now the Iranians are also claiming that, yes, they are supporting them, and they call them as their allies. There was, I think, recently an interview on Sky News with an Iranian professor, and he mentioned that they are not proxies but allies. So technically, it's Iran versus Israel context, and then definitely it is within framework of Middle East. Yes, there is another important factor is the Russian interest that I think we can expand later on, because Russia also has a base in Tartus in Syria, and in case Iranian interests are compromised, it means that probably next could be the Russian interest. So we have heard that there is a news of maybe a high-level delegation from Russia is arriving in Iran today, but it's on the social, maybe their prime minister. Now, coming to, I think, what has happened. As you mentioned, there's been series of setbacks in, I think, last 2 or 3 months.
Yes.
Starting from the crash of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, and he was very close to the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei. And also, I think, an astute politician who developed a very good regional framework of coexistence. The Iranian and Saudi rapprochement was done in his time. Of course, there was through efforts of China and maybe Pakistan, and then he also visited, just before his, untimely death, Pakistan. And he was, I think, the day of his death, he was visiting Azerbaijan-Iran
Hmm.
border to, I think, maybe inaugurate some dam. So he was looking at, regional camaraderie with the Muslim countries, and things were going well. So just after that, I think there have been series of shocks to the Iranian supported axis of resistance as well as to Iran itself. We have seen Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Before that, his family was, martyred within Gaza.
Hmm.
And then we saw it happening right in the capital, Tehran, which I think very, very embarrassing. Let's be very frank to Iran,
Yes.
because one, he was not Iranian but a guest,
Hmm.
very high level guest, and a dignitary who gets protocol of the, in terms of security is as good as the supreme leader himself. And in case Israelis were able to, let's say, penetrate the security system
Hmm.
or compromised and then able to attack. It was also, mentioned that probably was done through a remote device.
Hmm.
There are conflicting reports that it was a missile and all that. So that was, I think, one major strategic shock. Then came the Pages episode that we discussed in one of our, I think, podcasts, how Pages within Hezbollah were blasted
Hmm.
by Israeli intelligence and their, I think, most probably Unit 8200, the signal unit.
Hmm.
So it was an IDF plus Mossad combined operation. And in that podcast also, we did conclude that Israel has been able to create a chaos in the leadership. Also, there is some chatter saying that probably there was some insider in Hezbollah ranks, so it means that they have been able to penetrate their human intelligence. And probably something big is coming. So that was, I think, the conclusion. And then comes, strike on Hassan Nasrallah. We have seen some videos. I don't know whether they are fabricated, but Israeli Air Force has, put some videos on the social media how the aircrafts are flying, and then what kind of weapon they are carrying and strikes. And then there's a guy who's sitting, filming the entire thing about 1 kilometer away. So maybe it's to artificial intelligence. Maybe they had informers there. So he's recording the entire sequence of bombing. Though they use bunker busters or JDAMs, which again I think it's basically an American technology.
Hmm.
And it is heard that or reported that Hassan Nasrallah Shaheed was almost 5 stories down. So it was a huge bunker. But it was basically south of Beirut, living in a residential area or staying there. Now, there must be some information that at that particular time he was, I think it was almost late night, early morning when the strike took place. So it means Hezbollah was again taken by surprise. There was no air defense, I think, network there. We didn't even see, let's say,
I mean, for Hezbollah, they have like small, short range air defense missiles. That's one of the key reasons why we don't see, planes just flying about by Israel inside Lebanon at the moment. They use probably high altitude planes to achieve their targets in
yeah.
the region.
But the video shows that they went for a, bombing run.
Hmm.
So you can see that it was low flying. So they wanted to make sure.
Hmm.
But there was no air defense activated. So it
Hmm.
means that there is Hezbollah also caught off guard. Now, this is basically tactical and operational. We have also reports, as you mentioned, 3, I think, armor brigades
Hmm.
have been pushed by Israel in the northern, let's say, part of Israel. And there are reports that probably they've started crossing. We are not very sure. There's also buildup of American, I think, forces.
For now,
John,
they're saying a lot of naval deployment in the region. I'm not sure about the army on ground within
yeah,
Israel.
if you look at the US, mainly it's maritime plus US Marines. They already have bases in a lot of countries. But in order to, let's say, even when they were attacking Afghanistan or Iraq, there was a huge buildup.
Hmm.
You can't just do it in case, let's say, there is an understanding. Despite the US saying that they want, a time gap of 3, I don't know what 3 weeks will do. Because on one side, innocent people are also dying, children and women. So mainly, I think there is a connivance between both. Although US denied that they were not aware of the Pages thing and even this strike. But I'm
Hmm.
sure when you look at what is happening, it was with the American assurance. Israelis feel that they have a momentum because probably the other side is demoralized. Iran is also, as per their assessment.
Hmm.
And we can also expand on that. What could be the possible response? Now, if you look at U.S. Military presence, especially the Navy, maritime presence is an standing operating procedure that in the Indian Ocean, Mediterranean, especially North Arabian Sea, which is also touches Pakistan. Then you have Strait of Hormuz, Red Sea. These are very important, waterways and choke points across this canal into Mediterranean. By and large, there are two aircraft carrier groups, strike groups are there, who keep on rotating. At time they're coming from Indo-Pacific, at time they're coming from the continental US or the, let's say, Atlantic side. But they are present. And in case one is leaving, for instance, USS Eisenhower is leaving, then you will have USS Abraham Lincoln coming. It depends on what kind of. So these are there. Then they have, standby, I would say, fleets stationed at different places. So there'll be a couple of destroyers, nuclear submarines, and then the allies. Like French have a permanent presence in Western Mediterranean. UK has their, then Australia also has a task force. So all told, I think 60 to 70 ships of all kind are always there in the arena. And then they have their bases in Middle East. So it means that in case they want a quick response, it can be done. And then, of course, they can fly a remote control, like Predators can fly from, Global Hawk, fly from continental US and strike anywhere in the world. Definitely there are Tomahawk missile system and all that. So all told, it means, but I think what John Kirby mentioned in one of the talk shows was that he was specifically asked that in case things go out, are you ready? And he said contingency plans are there. It means that Americans are ready. The only thing is whether they have consulted the Arab allies, because I'm sure Middle Eastern Gulf GCC members, especially led by Saudi, would not like. Because even if you halt supply of oil and gas in these two waterways for a week, it's going to, I think, start affecting the economic system very badly. And when the missiles and aircrafts are flying, you never know what falls onto. That's why I think Saudi Arabia also went for a rapprochement, even with the Houthis. They would not like their oil fields, and same as huge business. If you look at the aviation route, East-West connection is mainly through Middle East. You have Dubai, then you have Abu Dhabi, you have Qatar, even Bahrain. Riyadh has become a huge center, Jeddah, and then you follow to Turkey, and anybody flying east again touches that. So it means that aviation routes are also going to get affected. Iran is a very big country. It's not like Iraq, mountainous, and most of, I think, missile systems are underground. So it's not a very, I would say, something that you can, you can chew it so quickly. The only thing would maybe they would try to put so much pressure. There's an internal revolt. We've seen some videos, some wall chalking in Tehran. Unfortunately, I don't know whether they are true or it's the Zionist propaganda. They're welcoming the strike and martyrdom of Hassan Nasrallah. So this is how things, I think, are looking at. So it means that this is excess of resistance supported by Iran. And now there's a lot of pressure on Iran also. Internally, I think we can also discuss what was said by the President Masoud Pezeshkian on last assassination of Hamas, which has been taken very, very negatively by the people on the street, that why there was a compromise. And then, of course, should Iran physically now come out? But there's also pressure from Hezbollah and Hamas also.
Because Israeli history is always about preempting a response. They don't just stay around, they actually achieve. We saw what happened during the first Arab-Israel war. Entire Egyptian Air Force was completely destroyed. Almost 70% of their aircrafts on ground. Yeah, we witnessed how Israel completely decimated the Egyptian Air Force on ground. So if the general strategy and the general idea of the IDF forces is to be aggressive, don't you think that after such a long time, Iranians or Iraqis or even Syrians or even Lebanon might have looked into it, that this is going to happen and we need to be prepared for it?
Yeah, I think they should be, because if you look at the axis of resistance, it moves like an orchestra. Though I feel that I think in the last 3 months they have been on the defensive, not seen proactive operations. Maybe there were rockets fired by Hezbollah or Houthis. Hamas is, I think,
generally they're targeting the border areas or cities 40 kilometers inside
whatever
Israel.
is their weapon systems. So it means that definitely, if you look at Iran and then there, because I think even with Hassan Nasrallah, there was an Iranian senior officer also martyred. So it means that he was already there. So there are advisors with that. I don't think so. Houthis, Hezbollah, I don't know about Hamas or Kataib Hezbollah is doing without
Mm-hmm.
IRGC. IRGC has a permanent link with that. These were built up by uh, General
Soleimani. Yeah.
Soleimani, and he was master of,
Hmm.
I would say,
Proxy warfare.
proxy warfare or hybrid warfare or these militias. But everybody is doing it. Like Russians have the Wagner group, Americans have the Blackwater. The only thing is how you configure it. And then we've seen our region also. So now the question is that ultimately Israeli would like, basically, as is being said, they would like to push and drag, Iran into war. Now there was a statement by Iranian president, I think yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
Masoud Pezeshkian, which I think has gone very negatively within the Iranian, especially the
Mm-hmm.
Islamic revolutionary,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, cadres. He said that when Hamas leader was martyred, Mr. Ismail Haniyeh, there was a commitment given by the West and US that we'll bring peace, we'll stop the war in Gaza, and you hold on. So it means that Iranians were restrained at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens, if you don't take the initiative?
Hmm.
I'm not advising the Iranian, but this is how I see it. So you have their president taken out. Maybe this was a crash. Then you have Ismail Haniyeh
Hmm.
and a big jolt to the prestige of, I would say, Islamic Revolution in Iran and their leadership, because then and there were a lot of stories which came out that why insiders or they
Mm-hmm.
wanted it. And now Hassan Nasrallah, the top man in the region.
Mm-hmm.
I think weight-wise, look at Hamas and Hezbollah. I think Hassan Nasrallah had more weight, more prestige, and there is definitely his contribution in the leadership. So who is next? I've seen, a video put on social media. Maybe it's by Israeli intelligence or some other country. There are dominoes with the faces shown,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and includes all the leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah.
Mm-hmm.
And last domino is of Hassan Nasrallah going down, and then next is with a question mark, and they are pointing finger at uh, the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. So it means there is a threat also. Now, should Iran wait
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and God forbid there is a targeting, and what do they do? Then they start
Because
rethinking.
I think the situation has gone way ahead of for an eye. It's
Yeah,
now like generally war.
yeah, it
So
is. It
it's
is.
no longer an eye for an eye that if you are going to fire at us, we are
Yeah,
going to fire at you.
yeah, and even Netanyahu said it.
Hmm.
But I feel that in case Iran, let's say hunkers down again, they're going to be stuck, and then probably they'll be
So
in.
their regional, proxies are not going to trust them as well. That
That
they are being
there is a
left
pressure.
alone in
There is a
this. Yeah.
pressure now. That's why I think, as we were talking before the
Hmm.
program, I think you have some data that
Yeah.
maybe on social media that some forces are being
Yes.
placed in
In Lebanon.
northern
Yeah.
Syria and Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
Already they have, I think, the two brigades like Fatmiun and Zebaniun, but I think they have been named more differently.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely IRGC has a presence. I don't know why Syrian government is very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So far, there was no, I think, word from Bashar al-Assad. But anyways, then I think one thing people are missing is that just the day of the strike, UNGA, session was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and Netanyahu made the speech, and probably he precisely knew it that what is coming up or what has happened. It was well timed. And but just after assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, the declaration, there was a meeting between the Russian foreign minister
Mm-hmm.
Sergei Lavrov,
Mm-hmm.
the Iranian foreign minister, and the Lebanese foreign minister.
Yes.
And they also generally you don't let's say open your mics. It's not a hot mic. When you are sitting after the photo session, people go. But they deliberately, I think, did show that there's something they talked about which came on the social media also. So it means there was an assessment, and now the news of let's say Russian high-level delegation coming to Iran, I'm not very sure, but this is on social media,
Mm-hmm.
is true. Then that factor of Russia will come into play.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Iranians are also going to ask them that every time you ask us for restraint,
Mm-hmm.
how far? Then there is a north-south corridor.
Yeah.
You have basically Russia, Iran, and even Pakistan has even accepted it. So it's going then SCO's conference taking place in Pakistan, summit on 15th October, followed by BRICS on 22nd, and all these players in the region are very much, directly or indirectly connected with these organizations.
Definitely.
So it means that there was something to do with these, and then Trump's election in November. So all told, if you look at the overall strategic picture, because Trump has announced that maybe the Middle East will not have any change, but maybe the Eastern European theater will have change in case Trump wins. And I'm sure just after that, there's going to be policy shift will start, although he's going to take over in January in case he wins. So it means that this October is very, very crucial. There are going to be major decisions, and maybe the Western powers would like to scuttle these initiatives, Eurasian initiatives. Can Russia afford it now? So I think it's very, very tricky situation. Actually, Israel has pushed everybody into a cauldron of war. And somehow I have a feeling that something big is going to happen in first 2 weeks of October. Let's pray it doesn't. But my calculations is that there is so much now pressure on Iran and Russia and their allies. And then I just forgot that during UNGA, I think 4 or 5 foreign ministers, including Saudi foreign minister. Then you had the Jordanian foreign minister, the Egyptian foreign minister probably, and even I think Turkish foreign minister was there. And they tried to basically communicate it to the West and Israel that this is the time now, just stop it here. We assure you that we guarantee Israel's security, and still we can save the situation. Otherwise, they said that what you are doing, you are not listening to us. So it means that there will be, I think, there will be a lot of street
Then they will
pressure.
be forced to take sides.
Yes, because if you look at Jordan, street pressure, a lot of Palestinian population lives there. So there was a guy who I think
Yes,
on a border crossing
on the border,
killed,
he killed around 12 servicemen of Israel.
Is it
Yeah.
12?
Yes, 12.
Okay. So this is, I think, how the situation
Yeah,
is.
last question, a brief answer about. Overall, by now we have witnessed, the Iranian-backed axis of resistance using their proxies, elements of small missile silos. In fact, small level of drone weapons have been used. Would we witness just what we have witnessed in Ukraine, deployment of, air defense arsenal in the region as well in order to cope up with the IDF forces as well, especially their air force? Because if it is happening inside Ukraine with the deployment of NATO equipment in there, won't you see or witness either Iranian equipment being deployed in Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, or even Russian?
I think there are already some indicators. Like there was a hypersonic missile fired by the Houthis.
Houthis,
I don't think so have the capability.
No.
Even of assembling or firing it. Most probably, my assessment came through Iranian channels and then maybe a Russian missile. And there are reports of Wagner group in Yemen. Then, of course, S-400 has already been given to Iran for this very contingency, because ultimately it's going to be the air power. Whether it is the Israeli air power or US air power or their allies, in case they want to strike Iran, it's going to be with the Air Force. So S-400 deployed to guard important, I would say, sensitive areas. And now in case Israeli tanks, armored columns and armored brigades are being assembled, north of Israel means there's a ground operation which is already either started or it is about to start. And it can't be stopped with, maybe Hezbollah on its own. So you need conventional forces which are going to fight and give it a tough time. And if Hezbollah's leadership is, although I think the new leader has been nominated, Mr. Hashim, who's nephew of Hassan Nasrallah. And it is said that he was groomed for this job. Comparatively younger, but he has the same outlook. And he was looking after the finances of Hezbollah. So he's been given power. But ultimately, it's going to be the military commander. I mean, IRGC should have contingencies to get deployed in northern Syria. And then comes, Lebanon. So you are right that we may see. And in order to preempt now Israel entering ground forces, it is very important that there should be something there to stop. Because if you look at southern Lebanon, it's being plastered daily with bombs, and there is a huge network of tunnels. But if you bring armor and artillery, and then you can only stop. And then maybe a defense system, and is the Iranian Air Force going to come to place? I think another factor is how the information war is being played. Although West and Israel are definitely on one side, but there's one country in the region which is playing very dirty.
It's trying to chew the government.
Yeah, and walk
Right.
too. Yeah. And so look at Indian media, and if you look at the response within India by the Muslim community, whether it was occupied Kashmir, there are a lot of protests which came erupt,
Mhm, mhm.
and they are surprised that okay,
I think they're playing both sides. I have seen Indian media, glorifying Hamas and Hezbollah as well, while downplaying Israel, and they have been glorifying Israel as well.
no, but I think if you look at the percentage,
Yeah,
let's be
percentage
fair
wise,
that
yeah, obviously, it's
90%
fair.
Godi
Yeah.
media is there. Maybe I think if you have alliances of Congress in occupied Kashmir, probably like Mahbooba Mufti then pulled out her campaign for 3 days, and she was criticized. But if you look at their social media, they're making memes, and some of them are trying to be more Zionist than the Zionists. But I think the DNA is the same, whether the Hindutva, fascist or the Zionist, the
Yeah.
same. So unfortunately, that's what I think in information domain. But there are a lot of, I think, Israeli, I've seen information warfare to a passive mode now. I think it will be more dangerous. So
Mm.
they have to have a very solid, meaningful response. And probably, in my assessment, in case Russia gives them a little bit of backing, there's going to be something big which comes in next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So that's it for today, folks.